Hey, lesson 1 for today we're going to be going over the basic interface for Arma 3 Editor. Units, groups, triggers, waypoints, synchronize, but don't worry too much about that one. Markers and modules. So we'll jump straight in. We'll zoom into Camp Row again and we will click units and we will place our cursor here. We'll double click and it'll bring up this menu. This menu gives you all the options for the unit you're just about to place. So we'll keep it to side, which will be blue for. The faction is NATO, and we'll keep it as a class of men based on the fact that we want to put a man down. So we'll just select a basic rifleman and we'll click OK. Now this has placed a unit in Camp Row again. So now if we preview that, we are now directly where we placed in the editor. So you can run around and we are now a rifleman in the game. So we'll go back to editor. Now we'll take that unit, and something you can do is now that that unit's placed down, if you just click on it, we deselect, if we click unit once, and we can drag him around anywhere and it will stay relative, so he will now move wherever you want. But if you hold down shift whilst clicking and keeping hold, you can use that little arrow to show which way he'll be facing when the unit spawned, which can come in handy. This red ring means that that is currently the player. Now you always have to have a player in game in editor in order to preview your mission. So we'll go over the next one. So now we've got groups. Groups is pretty similar, except it puts numerous amounts of units down on the map at once, and the game gives you subclasses for that. So if we double click, it now gives us the same sort of options, but based on the class now is infantry, you know, of all these different ones. We'll stick with infantry for simplicity. If we go down to weapons squad, you get a bit more troops. So you will get all of these at the click of one button. So we click OK. Now these are all in game. So if we click preview, because we're still here, you should now see these units in game where you just placed them. And there they are. Directly in formation, just like you saw in editor. So we'll go out and we'll delete these. And we're back to square one. Okay, now triggers can be used for numerous things, but the most simple way to explain it is you can use conditions set by you or in-game ones to trigger something to happen. So for example, if we put down a trigger, this bounding circle is the radius of whatever area we want to be affected by the trigger can be affected by it. So if we click activation blue 4, that means that if blue 4 is present within the circle, something will happen. So if I put hint and then put I have set off a trigger, and that when the game loads, because we are in it, it should make a hint pop up on screen. As you can see in the top right corner, it now says I have set off a trigger, and ignore the spelling mistake. Something else we can do is waypoints. Now waypoints are used for AI, but they can be used for players, but that's something more advanced which we'll go over in another segment. So if we place a unit down, place another rifleman. Now as you see what happened there, we've now got this blue line. And this blue line means that this unit here is now grouped to us. This is mainly usually because of a higher rank. So if I change that to sergeant, I will now be in charge of that unit. Whereas if I change that to, let's say, captain, he is now in charge of me. So he can now tell me where to go, whereas before I could tell him where to go. So if you click group and you click on the unit and you just drag, it ungroups them, which is something which is good if you want units to have their own separate thought processes and not be thinking about a group mentality. So if we place him down here and we click waypoint whilst he is selected, and I click over here and click OK, this now tells this unit has to move from where it is to here. So now if we preview, he should start running towards where we have just put that waypoint. And there you go, there he goes. So back in editor. The cool thing about waypoints is the fact that you can set behaviors. So if we go to speed and we put it as limited, we put his behavior as safe, this will mean he will move to that in a limited speed, which in this instance is walking, and he'll have a behavior of safe, so his gun will be down. So if we now click that, the waypoint's still the same, but we've just added that within the waypoint, and we click preview, you should see him start walking to the location. And as you can see, he's walking over. A great use for that is when you're doing or trying to emulate patrols. So if we wanted him to, if you click that waypoint and we click here, and we just click OK, and we do that, we'll do a few more. He will now follow this with the same behaviors as we set in the first waypoint because we haven't changed anything in the other ones. So he should now walk in a circle. So we'll preview. For the sake of time, I will speed it up. But as you can see, he's now doing a patrol, and it took seconds to set up. So the final thing I'll show you about waypoints is the fact that he'll only do that once, and when he gets to this point here, he will stop and he will not move anymore. But if I create another waypoint and move down this list to cycle, it'll loop basically. So once he gets to this waypoint, he will go to his location of where he was before, and then he'll repeat it, and he'll just keep on going and keep on going and keep on going. So I'll give you a quick preview of what that looks like. I'll speed it up again. So as we can see, he's having a right good walk around. And he started off again. So there you go, that's an easy way to create a constant patrol for your in-game missions. So we'll go back to editor and we'll get rid. Okay, so we've got down the basics of placing a unit, giving it waypoints, and also the basic functions of how a trigger works. So what we're going to do now is we're going to take it into a bit more detail, and we are going to use this trigger to tell this unit to not walk past this point here without us walking into the radius of the trigger. So the first things first, what we'll do is we will double click the trigger, and you see it's axis A and axis B. This is the size of that circle. So if we put this to 10 by 10, this has now created a 10 by 10 circle. So we must if you look, we are not inside this trigger, so we have to walk into it in order for it to be activated. But we're going to go one step further, and we are going to use the synchronize function. The synchronize function can be used in numerous cases, but just for the sake of the context of a trigger, if we click the trigger and we drag to this waypoint here, this waypoint is now synchronized to that trigger. So that waypoint cannot be passed until this trigger is set to true. True or activated, just for the sake of simplistic terms. So now if we preview, what should happen is that unit will walk to here, but he will not walk any further and continue his cycle until we have walked into this circle. So if we click preview, now you can see he's walking over, and I'll speed it up. If you look, he's just stood there now and he's doing nothing. But if I walk over, if you see, now he started moving, because we've activated that trigger, and now it will do what it showed before. It will just go around in that cycle because we've passed the condition in which he can now move forward. So we'll go back to editor, and it's as simple as that, really. Now the final thing I'll show you today, anyway, we'll go over modules in another lesson, is map markers. Map markers, there's nothing really complex about them, but they come in handy when you're mission making if you want to place information on the map prior to your players actually entering. So for example, you might want to mark up a landmark, an enemy base, anything really. So if we click markers and we double click, you get this option. Now if you create a name, so let's just say marker 1. Now this is what text will be displayed at the side of the marker. So we put this is marker. This will we now have a name for the marker, and the text which will be at the side is this is a marker. So it has a size of 1 by 1, and you can change the colour, so we'll just change it to red, and icon will go away from empty, and we'll pick this one here. So now when we click OK, we now have this is a marker. So now if I zoom out on the map, you can now see that that's there. Now this will show in game, so if I click preview, you should be able to see this on the map if I bring up my map. So now you can see we're in game, and nobody's placed that down in game. We did that in the editor, so it's there when the players join, which can come in handy. Anyway, thanks for watching, guys. I'm going to be doing a lot more tutorials. This was just a quick run through. It's a trial period. My voice will get more confident and better, obviously, as time progresses. I'm going to start with the basics, and we're going to build on them, and build, and build, and build, and then we're going to start looking at the more advanced things, which I've learnt anyway. So until next time, guys, be sure to check out www.ugaff.co.uk and sign up if you want to fancy a game with us. Peace.